Well, I'm joined now by the geopolitical analyst and director of the Global Strategy Project, Marco Vicenzino. Marco, Nasir al-Wuhayshi, what do we know about him? How important was he?
This was the most important strike on an al-Qaeda leader since the killing of Osama bin Laden in 2011. And plus there's the fact that this person was likely to be the heir to the current leader of what we can call Al-Qaeda Central, the original Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. So Ayman al-Zawahiri, the successor to Osama bin Laden, continues to be the number one. The person assassinated today is technically the number two of the entire organization, but the leader of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, which is the most effective fighting force within, you can call, the Al-Qaeda franchise.
And he was very well known across the world, in that part of the world. The US State Department had offered a $10 million reward for anyone who could help bring him to justice. Just why was he such a big and important target for the US?
Extraordinarily seasoned. He goes back to the late 90s in Afghanistan when he became very close with Osama bin Laden, part of his inner circle, to the point when the Americans invaded Afghanistan and there was a battle of Tora Bora. He actually managed to escape, go to Iran. He was arrested in Iran 2006, and then from there deported to Yemen, and then he escaped from prison there in 2006, and from there became responsible for the fusion of the two Al-Qaeda branches, the one in Saudi Arabia and Yemen, to form ACAP. Extraordinarily effective, although many of their attempts have been foiled on American targets, such as, there was one, the shoe bomber in 2009. Their intent and their ability to execute remains very much serious. So they have a focus on what the ICAP is a near enemy, which is their fight within Yemen itself. And then you also have the far enemy, which is the West and primarily the US. And they've improved, like I said, not just only intent, but the ability to actually implement such attacks. They have a solid track record.
So just how much will the American forces be celebrating this tonight?
It's a major blow to the organization, to ACAP specifically. But in terms of ACAP's ability to operate, particularly within Yemen, they're prepared. ACAP is prepared. The killing seems to have taken place last Friday. Within 3 to 4 days, they already nominated a new leader. So they're prepared in terms of, they saw what happened to Al-Qaeda Central, which has been practically neutralized by the drone attacks. And then secondly is the fact that they were able to replenish their ranks with new blood. And they're fighting within, and they're real. It's not just that they're a group like Al-Qaeda Central that was sitting and just planning attacks overseas. ACAP is actually a real group. It has similarities to ISIS, whereby it holds territory and it controls huge swaths of territory in eastern Yemen and is a key central player in the current conflict involving the Houthis, the government, and the various factions.
Yeah, you say they're prepared. They certainly seem to have been. They've already announced their new leader, who is another very highly influential figure.
Yeah, I mean, in this sense, once again, it's being replenished. They're able to strike in Yemen in particular. There's a constant battle going on, sort of in a constant battle mode. They've been extraordinarily effective in hitting at government forces over the years, and even to the point where in 2009 they nearly killed who was then Deputy Interior Minister Mohammed bin Nayef, who's currently the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia today. So even these new leaders that are coming in, they have vast experience, all of them. It's an accumulation of years of experience of fighting. They're well seasoned.
So do successes like this one, the killing of one of the top officials, does that justify, do you think, the controversial technique of using drones in parts of Yemen, which causes supposedly many deaths of people who are innocent and who they're not really being targeted? We've seen that in the press and the media many times over the last few years. In America, do things like this, do announcements like this, that big targets are being killed, does that kind of quash those calls for that technique to be stopped?
The drone killings began under George W. Bush, and then when Obama became president, they grew exponentially. They had a series, when I spoke earlier about neutralizing Al-Qaeda Central, many of their leaders were killed due to drone attacks. Now, there's the advocates will say that the fact that they've killed so many of these leaders, they've neutralized Al-Qaeda Central. They're doing an effective job also in Yemen and killing the leaders. Those are the opponents would say is that it causes collateral damage and it creates an entire new generation of terrorists. And plus on the U.S. domestic front, even within the Congress, there's a huge debate that has been going on about the legality and the effectiveness. So this is an ongoing debate.
And we're talking about this in the sort of highest possible terms in terms of a success story for American forces and for the whole technique, I guess, of using drones. But does it actually have a big impact on the operational ability of al-Qaeda to operate, or do they just fill in another person to do that job?
It depends which groups you're speaking about. We mentioned Al-Qaeda Central. They neutralized them because their ability to replenish wasn't as sharp or as the ones in Yemen right now. ACAP is involved. It's in constant battle mode, fighting conventional wars on the ground and also fighting the far enemy. And that sense is that they've become many people. They can gain many recruits out of that. Similar to ISIS, is that they're seen as effective, as a real force. For that reason, they can recruit many and at the same time send some overseas sometimes. And we saw the Charlie Hebdo attacks, for which ACAP claimed credit while it's running a war in Yemen itself.
Yeah, Marco. Well, we'll probably see those drone strikes continue, and therefore these stories continue in the next few months. So we'll no doubt have more stories like that. For now, though, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.